And welcome back to the Showroom Presents. Hey Buffalo, I'm very excited today because I am holding in my hands a bottle of water from the one and only Fountain of Youth in St. Augustine, Florida. And our guest today is Florida travel expert Kara Franker, who's going to tell us all about it, as well as the 450th year celebration of the founding of America's oldest city. Welcome, Kara, to the Showroom Presents.
Thank you so much. So you'll want to start drinking that water now. I'll tell you, I've been drinking gallons of it, and I think it's working because I'm actually 80 years old. I think I'm looking pretty good.
Wow, you look terrific. And you know what? After the interview, I'm going to down this myself and try to go back maybe about 30 years.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's a fun time to be in the city, I'll tell you that. It's the 450th anniversary of the founding of the city. So, you know, the Spaniards came, it was Pedro Menendez de Avila set right foot where we are at the Fountain of Youth 450 years ago.
So tell me a little bit more about St. Augustine's claim to be where America, colonial America, really started.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because if you think back, into your elementary school history lessons, we get a lot of the English traditions. So we learn about Plymouth, we learn about Roanoke, we learn about Jamestown, but St. Augustine was actually in existence way beyond. 42 years before Jamestown, St. Augustine was founded as a city. So people don't realize that because that's Spanish traditions and we learned more English traditions growing up, but it is in fact the nation's oldest city.
So the argument can be made that Thanksgiving started in St. Augustine then, correct?
That argument absolutely can be made, and this is why. So the King of Spain at the time, he sent a decree that the day that the Spaniards arrived, he wanted to have a giant banquet. He wanted everyone to dine at the same table. And St. Augustine is a very diverse place. So we had Dutch here, we had the Native Americans, we had the Spaniards, we had free Africans actually as well. And they all dined at the same table.
So that's pretty interesting. Now, did they wear the little pilgrim hats?
I think they were more into those like silver helmets, but that's up for interpretation.
I know you can't help think about those little hats though when you think of Thanksgiving. So listen, why haven't more Americans heard about St. Augustine's place in American history?
Well, and I think it's because of what I was telling you about, the English history versus the Spanish history. So if the English are telling the story, of course, they're going to tout the locations that they came and founded. Where if the Spanish are telling the story, then they're going to talk more about their locations. I think that's where it comes into existence.
So probably just simply depending on what ethnic group that you would talk to? I mean, is that how you would interpret it?
Well, I think the United States educational system was really based on English traditions. So I think that's why we learned more about that. And then when, history was really broken down and they realized that, the Spaniards kept great records. So, we could trace it back to 1513 is when Ponce de Leon first came to Florida. He went back over to Spain, so then the king sent Pedro Menendez back. And that's when the settlement actually came to be. And it's the oldest continuously occupied European settlement. So, it's just interesting, the way you tell history and the way that it comes, back to life. People will maybe leave parts out or, not, harp on certain parts. But it's definitely, historians have said, this is the oldest city.
Yeah, wow, and I guess you're right about that. Interpretation, of it is going to play a big part in how the stories are told, and even stories you hear from your own youth, they sometimes, as years goes on, you hear them many times over, but they don't always sound the same, I guess.
Yeah, it's like the game of telephone. By the time the message gets across, it's a little bit jarbled.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about the Fountain of Youth Archaeological Park.
Well, this is a great place to come visit. There's so much to do here for the entire family. You can actually bring your dog here too, which is really fun. It's a pet-friendly location. And so you can bring your dog.
Awesome.
The dog can, drink out of the water too. They have what they call a fountain of pooch, which is really fun. And then this is actually an archaeological site as well. So the University of Florida is constantly finding new artifacts. So there's a lot of fun stuff to do here.
So can you give us a couple more tidbits of information about St. Augustine? If somebody was planning on stopping down there, What would you tell them? What are some other things they should do when they're there?
Yeah, well, do we have the whole hour? Because I'll tell you, there's so much to do, but I'll just kind of focus on my favorites. One of my favorite places to go, and what I would suggest too, is the Castillo de San Marcos. It's a historic fort. It's actually now part of the National Park System, but this fort was built to guard the city from British invaders and also from pirates. So you can climb up to the top, you see the same views that the Spaniards had back then, and I'm telling you, the views are great. Drop dead gorgeous water views. You know, the beaches are in the distance. And I should mention that the St. Augustine beaches are absolutely beautiful. This is a place where you want to come, you know, carve out your own piece of sand. It's uncrowded. 42 miles worth of beaches here. So you can spend some time getting some sun, go back into the city, get a little bit of history. There's really something here for everyone.
Now, tell me a little bit more about the food there, because when I travel, well, even here I enjoy eating, and Buffalo's a great place for good food. So tell me a little bit more about the cuisine in St. Augustine.
Well, you can find some really great, authentic Spanish cuisine here. And one of my favorite restaurants to visit is right in the Colonial Quarter, and it's called the Columbus Restaurant. And you can get great Spanish food, and of course, sangria. And this place is great for wine. I'll mention too that what we have coming up is a Spanish wine festival. And there's also a new distillery here in town as well. So if you're a foodie or you're into handcrafted cocktails, this city is for you.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. That sounds wonderful. Well, listen, let me ask you one final question here, if I may. If you drank from the Fountain of Youth, what age would you like it to take you back to?
Oh, maybe 17. I'm thinking 17.
It's funny. I was thinking the same thing. 17, 18, great time, I think, in most people's lives. So that's my goal, and I'm hoping that this bottle will help to get me there. So
you and me both.
Where can our viewers at home go to get more information about beautiful St. Augustine?
Absolutely. You want to visit floridashistoriccoast.com to start planning your vacation. And then also, for more information about the Fountain of Youth, visit fountainofyouthflorida.com.
Awesome. Well, Kara, thank you so much for being a guest here on the Showroom Presents, and I'm sure the good folks at home appreciate all the wonderful information about St. Augustine, Florida, Fountain of Youth. Make sure you visit it.
Airport Plaza Jewelers is turning 20. Join the celebration. It's our Jamaican anniversary giveaway, an all-expense getaway to Jamaica, and a $100,000 Island Paradise shopping spree. Just stop into Airport Plaza Jewelers for your entry form. No purchase necessary. But while you're here, check out our fabulous selection of diamond anniversary jewelry, rings, necklaces, bracelets, thousands of great designs at deep discount. Hurry down. You can't win if you don't enter the Showroom on Union Jamaican anniversary giveaway and cash spending spree. The Showroom on Union is your anniversary diamond jewelry store.